I am honestly shocked at these protests that we're having, that we get for Reopen America, that so many people are out there protesting the government shutting down during the pandemic. And on the one hand, I'm like, come on, this is a obvious public health crisis. And we have to be very careful. We have to look out for each other. And there are very big risks for us getting together in public right now. But on the other hand, I understand where this frustration comes from. This is not something that we can blame on one person. What is going on right now, the shutdown, the impacts on our economy, staying at home, no traveling, like all of this is not one person's fault. And it's not like in a political campaign, which we might have been having now. Can you imagine, by the way, if we were in the middle of campaign season instead of this right now? Maybe that would be better, but it seems we have a bit of a higher context now. Anyway, I get off topic. Anyhow, um, it's not something that we can blame on just one person. This is a natural disaster, if anything, and that makes it really difficult. It makes it hard to get my head around sometimes. I'm sure it makes a lot of people, it's hard for them to get their head around it. So I understand where a lot of this frustration can come from in these protests. So here's what I'm doing to get my head around it. It's a little lesson I learned from the movie Taken, and we'll get to that. So hello, I am Owen. Thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you will subscribe. And please join our group, the Abundance Hackers group on Facebook. I will put a link in the chat right now. You definitely want to join right now. Some very exciting stuff going on. So join us, and love to see you there. So the movie Taken, right? A few years, several years ago. Gosh, it was a long time ago, actually, when you think about it. I don't know what year that movie came out, but I remember even just watching the trailer and how like shaken I was by the line where Liam Neeson is speaking to his daughter, who is hiding under a bed in a house while some people are trying to kidnap her, and she's hiding from them. And the line he says to her, he's like guiding her. He's like a CIA guy, and he's guiding her through all the steps on what she should do to protect herself. And it's all this cool spy stuff and whatever. She's under the bed, and the next thing he says, and the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to take you. They're going to take you. And I remember hearing that and be like, what? Like, what? Like, they're going to take you? Like, that's the best advice? That's a father who has skills in this area, which he describes and then shows later in Getting Her Back. But like, that's the best advice is, look, the thing you want least to happen is going to happen. And that's the best thing to move forward. And I mean, look, in the movie, sure enough, it was, because Liam Neeson is a badass and he can do whatever he wants and he's great. But also sort of in the point, it was that, if she had struggled anymore, if she had, tried to fight back, she might have been killed or hurt, and she ended up, okay. Almost kind of like why you're careful with like saving certain drowning people, because if they kick back, they can take you down with them. So, so that was the best advice, was just to be taken. And I was so chill. Just the idea that this was not a happy ending. It was not going to be good. It was absolutely the last thing you wanted to have happen. And of course it was going to have happened. But that awful thing was the way to help. It was the way to help. So, I think about this in my life. Like, in the past, I've had jobs. One of my last jobs in the entertainment industry, like, I gave up so much for that. I gave up so much for that for so long. I really believed that that job was all I had. I believed that it was who I was, and that my life in many ways would be over if I didn't have that around in my life. And as it got to the point where I realized I needed to make a change, I was faced with this tremendous fear, this loss of, okay, I had attached so much to this job, this was basically going to be ripping my entire identity to pieces by making a change, by moving forward. But as it turns out, the best thing that ever happened to me was making the change. And in this case, the only way, right, to help was to be taken. The only way to help was to do the thing that I wanted least to have happen, and it turned out to be the best thing ever. I just needed to change how I was looking at it all. So when it comes to this, it's all about, understanding and embracing the truth of the situation around us. Like, yeah, this is a pretty nightmarish situation by all accounts. The shutdown, the impacts on our economy, just this, not to mention the death and the sickness. So many awful, terrible things. The last thing that we want to have happen is happening right now. One of the very last things we want to have happen is happening right now. And there's nothing that we can do to stop that from happening more than what we are already doing, which is already pretty intense, right? So really, and we're going to be like this for the foreseeable future. We are it's going to be for many months, and that just is the truth. It is the unpleasant news, but it is the truth. And the truth is that if we don't stay this way for a long time, then people will die, and there's science to show that. Yeah, there are many things about the old way of life that we've had that are gone, and for better or for worse. There's some that I love about that. There's some that I don't like about that. But for better or for worse, it's all happened. Now, all of this is terrible, awful news. Why am I bumming you out on a Sunday? Why? So the more that we know what the truth is, the more that we can understand where we are and what's going on, the more that we can create opportunities for ourselves, the more that we can understand where the new pathways lie in all of this new life. Like, look at all the new connection that is happening right now. Like, I've talked about so many times, my grandmother just got on the portal on Facebook. It was a huge event, like an earth-shattering event. We can't believe grandma's on Facebook. It's amazing. And I hear so many people talking about their families who are speaking over FaceTime or Zoom now more than they ever were before. People who are not in contact are in contact now. There's so much more connection happening right now in many ways than there was before. There are brand new skills and brand new needs. Take a look at Instacart, right? This was an app that was a few people used. I'd heard some people use it from time to time, but the idea is like, well, why do you have someone go shop for your groceries for you? Like, getting them delivered was bad enough. Now it's like the app. It's the app that everyone's using. So many people are working for it. It's a brand new skill set, and I'm certain that once all of this is done and people can go back to the grocery store, there's still going to be a lot of people using Instacart after this. Like, it's changed. There's an opportunity there, right? And in many ways, well, yeah, we're going to lose a lot from the past. There are some things that we are blessedly relieved from the past. I've read how many workers have said that now that they're working from home, like, they really don't plan on going back into an office environment. There are many different new ways of being productive people have discovered. Like, so many great things have come out of this experience where we really all needed to come together and figure out new ways of doing things together and communicating. So, when I see these protests about, reopen the economy, and really that fly in the face of all the information that we have about just how dangerous this virus is, if we were all to just start getting back together again. I have to wonder, what opportunities are those folks not seeing? What opportunities are they not seeing in this new world that we can still do and keep each other safe? It seems like it's a lot of anger. Right? There's no reasonable reason, to do that. Like, we would be putting all of us at risk. We can't have an economy when everybody is sick and dying. We just can't have it. And my father raised a good point when I was speaking with him about they were discussing trying to reopen Vegas. Like, well, who's going to go to Vegas right now, right? In this situation. So when you got this anger and you've got this rage, you've got this need to protest against the science because things weren't like the way they were. Whenever there's any anger from the way things not from the way things were not being the way they are now, then you can channel it into understanding, like, look at the incredible things that are happening right now. Even in this terrible situation, there are incredible things happening, and people need you. We all need you. So, that being said, join us in the Abundance Hackers. Being a part of the solution here is being an abundance hacker. I'd love to talk to you. I've got some cool stuff going on, but it's only in the group. So sign up. Love to have you. Do it right now. Stay safe. Have a great rest of your weekend. I will talk to you really soon.